Welcome to another Kingscrusher radio show. So this is Tuesday, about 9:10. We're going to be carrying on looking at some amazing games of Garry Kasparov. Hi all on stream. I'm going to mute it there, and okay, I have 3 amazing games to show this week. So the first game, Kasparov was black here against someone called Shevskovsky. Vitaly Shevskovsky is current last FIDE rating 2460. He's a pretty amazing player actually. He's currently 67 years old. He was awarded the IM title in 1973, the GM title in 1975, and he was actually the USSR champion in 1978, where actually he won that jointly with Mikhail Tal. So the great legend Mikhail Tal, 3 years before this game, he'd won the USSR championship. This is not a bad player. So he's got many achievements. Check out Wiki or chessgames.com. And also Kramnik and Gashimov were his former students. He was a great chess coach as well. Okay, so sorry, he's no longer alive, unfortunately. When I say 67, he actually died at 67. He's no longer alive. They wrote online tributes to him after his death. It's yeah, it's pretty sad. That was in 2011. All right, so let's have a look. So e4 from Vitaly Shevskovsky, and Kasparov played c5, the Sicilian defense. We have knight f3, e6. Let's actually add a kibitzer just in case we need it at this point. Okay, so d4, c takes, knight takes. We have knight c6. Now d6, so Scheveningen pawn formation. g3, knight f6, bishop g2. Lots of games from this position, and bishop d7 is the usual choice here. White castles, bishop e7. So it's a very flexible centre for black here at the moment. The Scheveningen centre. We have a4 being played, and quite often a6 is played here. There's at least 200 something games with a6. Kasparov actually played, he castled. Now, slightly rare move, usually rook e1 is played here. We see knight c e2 being played. So we're kind of out of book now after knight c e2. So, what's the mission for black here? It looks as though black might have some play on the queen side, but maybe white can just play b3 at some point. Kasparov plays a rook to c8 anyway. So this is all without a6, because yeah, a6 is clamped down anyway, so he saved like one whole move not playing a6 at the moment. But nevertheless, after c3, Kasparov did play a6 in any case now. I think there's a point that knight b5 might actually be a concern in some of these positions if a6 isn't played. Just to show that, say rook e8, knight b5. What do we do about this? The bishop can't move. I mean, just to show, just very quickly, yeah. So a6, probably just not for any b5 necessarily, just to take out knight b5 to make sure that's not possible. So we have h3, queen c7, and now g4. It looks as though white should be able to play like this, because surely white's controlling like the d5 square, right? It's got a good enough grip on the center. Can't he just stretch out, maybe play moves like this? That'd be nice. Chase this back. But Kasparov does lash out in the center with d5 in this position. So very energetic response. and very good one actually technically. What does white do here? If he plays g5, just take on e4. That would be massive for black. This position. This would be really good for black. That's not what white wants. So we have e takes d5, knight takes d5 now, and yes, it looks as though white has kind of weakened his dark squares a little bit. Black can try and get a better grip on dark squares soon with bishop d6. Something very radical now is played actually. Bishop takes d5 is played. Losing that Fianchetto bishop is fundamentally, from a fundamental point of view, you'd think it should be a bit risky, right? Because there's a bit of air now on the white king. But the point is to play knight f4. So that's a kind of interesting decision to weaken, get this weak pawn here. And it's tricky, isn't it? Because how does black deal with this pawn? He can't play bishop e6 because then the knights are both on that. White would just win the exchange without any fuss. So without any bishop e6, how do we defend this pawn? If say queen d6, again, actually this might be a decent move. Queen d6. It's one of the decent moves available. In fact, it does hold on to the pawn. It looks a little bit maybe potentially passive. Okay, but actually Kasparov plays a much more interesting move here, much more interesting and dangerous. Let's see. So black's play. What do you do? Do you attend to the d5 pawn, or do you try and do something else? If I said to you, black's play here, what would you play in this position? So remember, white has kind of voluntarily weakened his own king, right, by taking on d5. So white's point is that trade-off decision by white is to weaken that d pawn, right? So what does Kasparov want to do here exactly? What would you play here? If I give you 20 seconds to think about this position. By the way, if you want to play chess, could you move away from the notation tab so we can have these guessed moves? All right, I'm going to tell you. Give yourself 100 points if you get this. Right, I'll tell you. He just played actually bishop c5, and it's a classic pin of this pawn. It's a very important pin, really. Making this pawn immune actually, because if knight takes, this wasn't played, then we have the potentially we have this check, right? Potentially not in this position because there's no pin just yet. Sorry, there's no pin just yet. Potentially we have queen g3. For example, queen e5 hits the knight here and here, and this is just really kind of dangerous. Because now, okay, that knight's holding there, but bishop e6, and actually it gets kind of dangerous, this position. Say knight here. If we go here, look at white's position. Bishop c4. White is actually getting a bit tied up in knots. Look at the bishops; they're amazing. So, but there's an undertone of having to defend g3 basically. If these knights were not defending. Let's have a look. g5. Let's take this a bit further. Yeah, it looks as though black is putting on loads of pressure here in this line, and yeah, this is the kind of pawn sacrifice that Kasparov would love to play, because all of his pieces would be active. This is just gigantic, this position. It's actually totally winning as well. It's actually it starts to creak. Technically it's crushing. Just an example continuation. So a lot of pain would result basically on knight takes d5. Just to review that again, there's an undertone of queen g3 if these knights were moved away. So queen e5 hits this one. If that one retreats holding that one and holding g3, that one could be kicked, and then black is quick to the d file, and then the bishops come in. It just looks menacing. The knights are fragile. Yeah, it just gets to this sort of, as an example, this sort of crushing position. This sort of thing is probably just, it's absolutely crushing, this sort of position. So anyway, white, perhaps he senses danger. He doesn't take that. He actually plays knight b3. He wants to keep things stable. Maybe Kasparov's reputation for being dynamic aggressive as well. White wants to keep things stable a little bit. Bishop a7. So the knight cannot definitely move here because of queen g3 check, right? Because of that pin. That's total devastation. So white actually plays queen takes d5. But actually, there is still pressure, a great amount of pressure to be put in this position potentially. And we see bishop e6, so skewing here. And there isn't really an alternative to retreat the queen here. This wasn't played because there's bishop c4, and say the rook moves. This is just horrible again. This kind of position gets to be very bad. That loses the knight. And if here, like again, white is really weak on all the squares around his king here. Really kind of weak. So actually here, white plays knight takes e6, which of course activates this rook on f8. And white dare not take now on e6. It just seems to lose too much time defensively. Remember, white is threatened with queen g3 here. If he took this pawn, fine, it's check, but this is kind of dead for white, this position here. Because, just imagine we have this position. Say king g2 as a try. Yeah? And where's the rook? Pardon me, where's the queen going? Where's the queen going? If that, there's some really brutal moves like rook e2 available with crashing on f2. So if that doesn't work, we just take its pin. So that's just crashing on f2. So queen d5 is not possible. Nothing's really possible here. It's too dangerous to basically it's too dangerous to waste time with that. We have queen e4, which seems to give in to allowing, it seems, queen g3 check, but there's always queen g2, right? So actually Kasparov didn't play that way. He didn't actually. It looks pretty strong to play queen g3. It does, but actually Kasparov plays a stronger move here than queen g3. Guess what he plays. So, you know, black's play here, there's actually a stronger move than queen g3 here. Can you, what would you play with black here? Any ideas? Any good ideas? Black's play here. So I know this is like a penalty in football because we've got, it seems we've got a rich opportunity around white's king, which has been self-weakened. Actually, sorry, there's another question before we, I'll ask that again in a moment. If queen g2 had been played, that's interesting as well. Knight e5 would have been dangerous. I think maybe white was worried about this, by the way. This looks as though this could be very good for black as well. But anyway, but maybe, you know, queen g2 might have been the most stubborn move, by the way. But yeah, he went to e4. And Kasparov, he didn't play the routine queen g3. He played actually rook takes f2 first. And after rook takes f2, queen g3 check now. Queen g2. Kasparov picks off the rook. And interesting position here, because actually it'll be equal on pawns. If black took the queen off, it'll be about equal, right? But it turns out there's an incredibly strong move in this position, much stronger than queen takes g2, hugely stronger in fact, and it gives white it gives black a decisive advantage. Very, very technical, accurate move. Black to play here. Can you guess what Kasparov plays in this position? Actually, there might be a need for elimination here to actually arrive at this. It seems as though, now if you said queen d3, that's not it actually, because king takes f2, and apparently this is just equal, because after the check we don't go to g1 but actually go to e1, believe it or not, and apparently white would even be doing okay here, believe it or not. That's what the engine suggests. White's technically okay. And also I would like to say that if we went to d6, king takes again for similar reason actually, that the check here, the king doesn't have to step back over here. If it did that, then black would be fine with check, maybe just taking there, black would be fine, but the king here could actually step to either e2, which is stronger than e1, and after e2 again, believe it or not, white is technically surviving. Kasparov's move is very precise on these issues. He has great empathy basically for the possibility of the white king snatching the bishop and moving to e2 and e1. It does seem this move has empathy for that, where a lot of us might not have had. So that's my clue to you to revisit this position again, if I asked you again, with greater empathy for the king wriggling potentially to the center after winning the bishop. What would be the key square here to put the black queen? So black queen goes where? 500 points if you can get it right. It's fascinating because I only see now the total clarity. I mean, I played through this game before this, but the engine confirmation is that this is the key move in the position if black wants to definitely have an advantage in all lines. It looks like it's a great attacking position with the F file. Remember this F file? It looks as though white has a terrible obligation in some respects, that bishop, to remove it. This is really fascinating because none of you seem to be aware of the move here. It's like Kasparov is better than all of us. Like, I don't know, more than 20-30 years later, and we're reviewing this game in slow motion. I'm telling you, there's a move here and no one's getting it. Okay. Okay, now you're getting it now. Queen e5. Queen e5. Yeah, what it does, it cuts out some possibilities, I believe. So, for example, if here, we can play the check knowing the king's not going to come over here, right? Because then we can play the check here, and then we can win the queen, right? That's simple. But you have to spot queen e5. If you said queen h4, White doesn't do this, which allows rook f8. White, he's not a piece down actually. He plays, say, bishop d2, and say here. It looks dangerous, but king e2 again. It's ridiculous, but this is actually a key thing. It's like you know, I've noticed in my own blitz games, you've got to kind of take responsibility if you're attacking, especially if you've sacrificed material and you've exposed the opponent's king. You've got to take the possibilities of outrageous king movements, which might get the king into safety. I mean, the classic for that is, of course, something like Capablanca playing against Marshall in the Marshall Gambit. You know, Capablanca's king got to safety, and then he won the game after that. But here, this position is not convincing. It seems this is a real king sensitive move to any outrageous possibilities. It really cuts down everything that white can do. If queen takes, then we just play rook f8. We're covering f4, so we can just snap that off. We're covering f4 as well, right? So yeah, it seems as though queen e5 is the killer move in this position. Yes, he had more time to think. Sorry, I'm giving you guys a hard time. He had more time to think. But yeah, it's a real killer. It's a really professional assassin move, isn't it? Queen e5. Do you think? On a scale of 1 to 10, now that I've kind of elaborated on it, do you think 1 not assassin move and 10 assassin move? I mean, seriously, it's a professional kill, isn't it? Queen e5. Yeah. What would you say? I just think it is now. It's more evident. It's more evident. He's ruled out all the wriggly moves. Yeah, with the king. So okay, so white's in trouble because also there's not such a there is also a significant threat of queen e1 checkmate here, which needs to be addressed somehow, and not involving queen takes because of rook f8, right? So white plays bishop f4 with the idea of putting the queen on the f file to be able to take here, yeah. But there's a slight snag to this. Kasparov does play this and this, but he's not taking queens. This final move, essentially, it ends the game. It causes resignation because the snag is very significant here. Black to play and win. And it causes white to resign. Can you see there's a problem for white in this position? It's the final move. Move 25. Black to play and win. You can see this one. This is easier conceptually. We don't have to take responsibility for king wriggles, right? You can all find this move. You can all find it. Loose piece. Clue, loose pieces drop off to double attacks. Everyone should know that. If you've got a loose piece in your position, you've essentially, having loose pieces is like not locking your card doors. Yeah, it's like not having a level of prophylaxis around your position. Yeah, you can just expect disasters. Having all your pieces protected is having a level of prophylaxis, which is a central thing Nimzovich is talking about with a lot of his instruments. But here, loose piece here, the double attack just wins the piece, and it's the end of the game. Yeah, loose piece, end of game in this line. Yeah, but what else did white? You know, white resigns. What else did white have in this position? What else? What could he do here? If he does bishop d2, actually this position is interesting. Say white did do bishop d2. It seems the bishop can just come back. And we've still got this killer f file now. So we're threatening a mate in 5 actually with rook f8. Yeah, white's king is shot to pieces here. Say here, check. Give you a line. This position, queen d5, come into h1. This is just, white is in big trouble. As an example. Yeah, his king's been compromised. And he'll end up losing material. Horrible things will happen. But essentially, the key thing is on bishop d2. Yeah, we can just retreat this bishop and celebrate that f file. Yeah, this is one of the strongest moves, just to celebrate the f file now. Okay, so it wasn't such a long game. It wasn't a long involved game, but the nice precision about queen e5 is something maybe to be known about. Because I think we've all seen this issue sometimes you know, of kings wriggling, unfortunately, and then that's the end of our attack. Okay, let's go on to another game. And this is very coincidental that we're covering this game. I'm tempted for another game based on this. This opponent was Kavalek, and it just so happened I was checking out a game recommendation of Kavalek recently, very recently, which is a brilliant game. I'll have to show you sometime. So who is Vladimir Kavalek? Okay, is he still around? 73 years old. He's still around. Czech Republic. So he was born in Czechoslovakia. Awarded the IM and GM titles in 1965. He's been Czech champion in 1962 and 1968. Was the US champion in 1972. Showing first place with Bernard Rozevsky. Yeah. And he was also, believe it or not, he's been around. It seems to be he was West German champion in 1981, believe it or not. Yeah. And he helped Nigel Short in his world bid in 1993 against Kasparov. So yeah, he's been around. Kavalek. But there's an absolutely stunning game he had, in particular in 1962, which I think I need to show you. It has impressed me for the same reasons aesthetically as it impressed the person recommending it. But before we get to that game, let's have a look at this. So 1982. Okay, Bourgogne. Who knows where Bourgogne is? I could look it up. Bourgogne 1982. I'm not entirely sure actually. I'm going to type that name. This is where the tournament was. I'm going to type it on stream. Where is that location? Does anyone want to do a Google search? Sorry, I should have found. But anyway, this is played in the Bourgogne tournament 1982. So c4 from Kavalek. Kasparov plays g6 actually. Fascinating already actually. Fascinating. Because this is like a special treatment against c4, not to play knight f6. Kasparov would routinely play knight f6 if it was d4, because c4 has been played. He's playing g6, right? That is in Kasparov's repertoire, this nuance. I know that for a fact. The thing is, white cannot reach Pierre's positions, yeah, with the pawn on c4. The problem with playing g6 to d4, white can just have a, sometimes favourable Pierre's. So anyway, so his treatment against the English is interesting with the g6 move, not moving the knight. Okay, for those interested in a nuance there, knight c3, bishop g7, and actually he's welcoming the possibility of just transposing into a King's Indian defence. We get a transposition into the King's Indian defence. Alright, Bourgogne is a town and municipality in central Bosnia and Herzegovina. Okay, cool. Thank you for that, Parada Ronda. Okay, so we've got a King's Indian defence now. Knight f3. Black castled. And we have here the an early h3 here. Early h3. In live book, h3, it's the second most popular move actually overall. The main move is bishop e2, but we have h3, e5, d5, pretty standard stuff actually. Knight a6. Quite often either bishop g5 or bishop e3 is played here. We see bishop e3 here. Knight h5, knight h2, queen e8. And it looks as though white's actually playing a fairly provocative game, in that It's almost said here to black, you dare bring your knight to f4, and it's going to be kicked back with advantage. That's almost the statement one's reading from this play at the moment. Does the knight really want to go to f4? It does, actually, it does. But what about after bishop f3? Isn't it the case that white, he hasn't committed to castling, you see? So isn't the issue here, probably to most normal club players, the issue here of committing this knight this early is that surely white could possibly arrange to kick this knight, yeah? And maybe that would be in white's advantage. Maybe white could castle queenside later, you never know. But the knight, surely it's going to be kicked. And we get this sequence now, f5, as if doesn't really care. h4, and it looks as though white is threatening, potentially, you know, g3 to kick this knight, potentially. But Kasparov plays queen e7 now. And we do have g3. And hold on a sec. What are we going to do with this knight? We can't move it here because, you know, bishop takes h5. Surely this is just a wreck for black, yeah? Even this position is a bit unclear, actually. f4, it's not entirely clear. But no, there's something very special about this position. The knight doesn't want to go here, surely, because how is it going to extracticate? How is it going to extract itself? I've just made up a word there. How is it extracting itself from h3? Here there's always f4. It's not that easy actually, because there's always f4. But it looks as though in the sort of longer term, this might be well, h5. It gets potentially tricky anyway. This sort of position, it might be tricky, although the knight's coming back. Now even this is playable actually. Knight h3 is playable, but you'd be a bit worried. Okay, you might be a bit worried anyway, but it's actually a playable move. But we have here a very interesting alternative to knight h3. See, objectively knight h3 works. It does actually work. Okay, but there's another move which is very interesting as well, which Kasparov played. Can you guess? Can you guess? Okay, so black to play, and it's not knight h3. I've ruled out knight h3, even though knight h3 is actually not a bad move. Knight h3 actually might technically be even better. If, you know, computers might actually play knight h3, right? But black to play, Kasparov to play. It's not f takes e4. I'll rule that out for you, because white can play bishop takes e4. And get a good, well, get a reasonable position. Say here knight g4. Yeah. It was actually a really interesting move played here, knight b4, believe it or not. So the knights are coordinating with each other on d3. So if given another move, one of them is going to go to d3. Actually, probably better to play this one so you can move the f pawn after. That would be check. So white, does he want to snap this knight off? He didn't actually. He played queen b3, allowing this check, allowing these checks. If he did take on f4, e takes f4, bishop takes, f takes, and this is a tricky position, because remember we're hitting this bishop as well, right? So say here, queen e8. Now this is protecting that, right? So let's carry on here. Might be a little bit on the unsound side this line, because off the check, actually, bishop takes, e takes, here, bishop takes, b takes, queen e4, hitting the rook. This kind of line is a little bit, it's not entirely, like, from an engine point of view, it's not entirely lost, this position anyway. It's not entirely lost. It's actually slightly better for white. So yeah, maybe it seems if Kasparov was playing a computer, probably the computer might consider taking this. It actually gives equality here. Let's just run this through again, because actually I've played in an accurate way of playing it. Not e takes. Better than that is actually f takes. And here e takes, and here if the bishop had gone back here, this is good for black. If the bishop goes here, check. This position is a bit murky. It's a bit murky. It's a bit what the hell's going on sort of thing. It ends up being just a tiny bit better for white. So yeah, there's some interesting lines, but I think the key move, if the knight's taken, is actually this. Just to review that again, the key move for equality, yeah, white has to calculate both basically, and maybe he got a bit scared. He didn't want to take that knight because his king's still in the center, right? And if he had moved his king away, then actually either knight h3 or knight here is actually dangerous for white. This sort of position is not great. Knight takes b2. The knights kind of can sort of help each other out here, and it gets another crazy position where I think black is ending up getting some counterplay with f4. Yeah, black's definitely getting some counterplay. So these are all really weird positions to analyze maybe after this. So anyway, white sidesteps all this with queen b3. So was he being a chicken with this move? Was queen b3 a chicken move? Or if 1 is not chicken and 10 is chicken, how would you rate queen b3? Do you think white should have tried to calculate all of that stuff? The problem is the branching is kind of complex, isn't it, to calculate either f takes or e takes. I don't know. He just wanted these knights going backwards. I don't know. He just wanted them to retreat. But alas, none of them is retreating. In fact, Kasparov pushes on aggressively with knight fd3, yeah, infiltrating with the knights now. So the thing is, are they precarious knights, or what are they going to do? In fact, the thing is, the advantage of this knight moving now is this f pawn. We see f4, and this is getting a bit much now. We see bishop d2, f takes g3, activating the bishop, and here yeah, if white got another move, he'd virtually consolidate with, say, a move like bishop e3. He'd virtually consolidate and have a big advantage because these knights are kind of loose pieces, right? You know, if say black did this, bishop e3, and then what on earth do we do with the knights? They're both stuck. They're not going to extricate themselves. They're both stuck in white's position, and they're holding on to each other for dear life. But you know, white's going to play just a4 in and then with material, right? But the thing is, it's black to play, and as Bronstein says, you know, the player with the move, you know, has got tons of resources available. The player with the move, don't underestimate the player with the move. So black to play uses this opportunity before the knights become very fragile and loose. Black uses a certain opportunity in this position, a golden opportunity mind you, there might be other moves as well. No, okay. So anyway, so black to play here. What does black play in this position? The engine kind of likes A5 here actually, and it's changed its evaluation at a very high depth. It was almost thinking this was dangerous, and now it evaluates it as slightly equal. It's very interesting with A5 if you mention A5, but it was actually rook takes F3 was played. Now one of the points, let's have a look at king takes. This wasn't played, knight takes was played. If king takes, then this is killing apparently, check. Because if here, then check, and then bishop g4 check, and then if knight takes, because look, the knights are cutting both the king escape squares, yeah. So if knight takes, then we have check, and then here we have check, and then check, and then check, and then check, and then check, and that if king e3 bishop h6 is mate, and then also if king f1 then it's like mate in 2 with check and then mate. So that's all clear, isn't it? So so that's why so it's probably a bad idea in retrospect to play king takes, yeah. So yeah, it's like forced, like nearly forced like mate. White's best would have been, that's a forced mate in 10 basically. If white's best is this, then we just take it there, and then we just take it here, and then this is much better for black because he's coming in on light squares as well. White would have to give up even more material. So yeah, so basically we have knight takes f3, bishop g4, and this is a very nasty pin now, simply threatening rook f8. So these knights are just here, they're not going anywhere for a moment, because black is able to generate light square tactics quite quickly to counterbalance the loose knights. White tries to reinforce the knight. Kasparov builds up the pressure. No time, I believe, to kick a knight. No time. He played knight d1. Let's try kicking a knight to see what happens. Just rook takes f3, bishop takes, check, check. This is crushing. This position will be crushing. Yeah, we've got all sorts of threats, and in fact we can even come like this. It's crushing. Yeah, so no time to try and kick a knight. So reinforce, well, knight d1 is played. Knight d1. We have queen f7 putting even more pressure on f3. And in fact, white can't hold f3 here. This might have been a mistake actually. Sorry, in this position, apparently white should have played this, so that if queen f7, there might be king d2, and this is okay, it seems. This is okay after a3. Then the knights would be loose. But yeah, he kind of blundered, it seems. When he played knight d1, I think this is a key blunder. So queen here, bishop now, bishop takes. This is different, this position. Very different. Because we have queen d7, and the queen, well, bishop takes is threatened. and I'm not sure there's time even for a3 here. The rook moved actually. If a3, we just take here, and something like this will do. Black's doing well. So we have rook hg1 moving there. Are the knights fragile or not? The thing is, with queen d7, this is quite nifty. Black is infiltrating over here now. It's almost as if the knights just needs like a goal scorer to come in and justify them carving up all these key squares. I mean, they've got a lot of influence, right? But they need something else. The queen is now infiltrating to try and help the knights out to score the goal. You know, queen h2 check, and then we've got coordination with the queen and one of the knights, or both of the knights, with queen h2 check. It's a ridiculous scenario, this. But finally, white tries to kick these damn knights out of his position. These pesky knights with a3. And you might think, well, hold on, a3, isn't queen h2 good? And you'd be right, the engine loves queen h2. As I mentioned, actually, queen h2 is a move to love here. It wasn't played actually though. It seems this other move is strong as well. Bishop takes e4, just holding this knight. Now, if a takes, I think the queen. Well, we have rook takes f1. That's the point here. Rook takes f1. So bishop takes e4. Threatens rook takes f1. So we have rook takes f8, trying to extinguish that threat, and now taking here. But with this bishop protecting the knight, now the queen steps in to help this knight score a goal here. Okay, so where does the king move? Well, the king hasn't got that many squares. Goes to c3. And there's a murderous move in this position. Okay, this is the winning move. It's like huge advantage for black. Okay, black to play the final move. Can you guess it? This is the final move of the game at move 27. So black to play. What would you play in this position? Any ideas? So final move, can you guess? Alright, the knight actually went, give yourself 200 points for this, knight c1. So it hits the queen. And also we got a coordination point on c2 now. So for example, if the queen went here, then that would be like a mate with that coordination point. That would be checkmate. So if the queen like goes here, then actually b5. So the queen can't take, and if c takes, queen e2 with the threat of queen d3. It's difficult to stop in this position. The point of b5, if queen e2 here, sorry, let's do a totem move. No, it's not. Anyway, it's okay. Pardon me. Sorry. After knight c1, white's pretty defenseless anyway. So queen a4, there's b5. If we go here, sorry, this point, white might be able to play on a little bit with b5, but even so, it's lost. c5, white is busted. It's just a king hunts there. So this is crushing. And if bishop takes, then just queen takes g1 actually, and this position is very bad, because actually black is threatening queen d4 checkmate in this position. Now if bishop e3, then check here, queen e2, and again this sensitive square means that it's pretty bad for white. If try and give the king an escape, not check, well, that could be played as well, just winning a piece. That's simple, actually. That's a simple way of winning. Just win a piece there. So, okay, after this quirky looking knight c1, it seems as though, basically, in a nutshell, if takes, queen takes is too strong. It's too strong. Just check that again. Bishop takes, queen takes, threatening mate. The problem here is the light squares. Eventually, after this position, the light square d3 is a major problem. So we said this check, and then like taking it. Yeah, it's bad. Knight c1 is bad for white. So he did actually resign after knight c1. That was the final move of the game. Knight c1. Fun final move. So I think this game, I remember it from years back, how the knights are kind of took some liberties, it seems. But okay, white wanted to try and kick them in principle, just never got time, because Kasparov actually, with his exchange sack, he weakened white, funny enough, on light squares. And it's no coincidence the queen infiltrated on light squares to help coordinate with those knights which were there in the moment. The exchange sack helped, in effect, provide support for the knights through a light square infiltration. So the knights, it seemed at no point could the knights have been kicked, it seems, with a3. It seems white was in a bad state after that exchange sack. But there's some very interesting possibilities instead of the exchange sack, which the engine was initially excited about. This is crazy stuff, but I think it was indicating this position, where when because if a3, this is a dangerous move. If a3, then knight c5, the knight's coming into good positions again. But I think there's almost a refutation available of this move a5, which is picked up much on deeper analysis. Not a refutation. There's a way of white saving this position, because it supports that knight, so it's a key move because it means knight c5 with tempo. But white has a move here, or so I thought. Let me just check this again. Yeah, it seems there might be a move. Just bishop e3. That means if knight c5, we can just take here and actually get a good position anyway. That'll be okay. This would be okay. White's doing okay. Bishop e3. Bishop d7. Let's have a look at bishop d7. a3, a4. The point is to kick the queen. Again, this is all a bit complicated, but there might be another way. You need to be a computer to want to play like this, because the knights are just getting more and more invested in, just immersed in the white position here. So Kasparov's approach looks much more human than doing this sort of thing. What he did with the exchange sack is very interesting. The pressure on f3, let's have a look at this again. The pressure on f3 in this position is realizing that there's like infiltration points here, And we had this move. What if h3 was stopped? Okay, let's just say this. Then queen g4, and it's still dangerous. There's still some dangerous ideas on the light squares. It seems, I'm not sure there's time for this again. This queen's like dangerous again. It's causing havoc in white's position. Yeah, so yeah, once the knights got in, it seems as though they might have been loose. I mean, that was the initial concern, in fact, with the knight on f4, that all of this seemed a bit premature because white hadn't castled. So there was that first concern about this knight, and Kasparov like doubled the concern when he invested both knights to be kind of stuck. But it wasn't tested here to take this knight. It's very complicated. Yeah, this is a very complicated game. The dynamics of it is just staggering, because the knights, you think they might be loose, but try and prove it is something different. So anyway, okay. Interesting games. I don't think we should cover another game this week. It's already been an hour. So yeah, I thought really interesting to try and analyze these games. Okay, I hope you got something out of it as well. Comments, questions on YouTube, likes appreciated. Thanks very much. Have a good week.